this is really one of the films I saw in the pre-selection and immediately decided to have it in our regional competition, Balkan Horizons, at the Free Zone Film Festival. The film is very intimate. So did you at any point hesitated if you should make this film, or at which point you decided to do such personal portrait of your father?
Yeah, thank you. I was hesitant almost every step of the way of making the film, if I should still keep making the film, because it's a very challenging thing sometimes to get to know one of your own parents in such an intimate way. And there were definitely times where I felt like maybe I'm getting too close, maybe I'm pushing things a little too much. And of course, there are a lot of things that are not included in the film either, that that were also quite intense, different interviews and things like that. But I think ultimately, I knew that I had something universal in the material, and I thought that there were aspects of my father's journey as a person that would really resonate with people on a human level. I knew that I would show different cuts or assemblies of some of the footage, and it was always something that people were really struck by, especially his film, his documentary that he made, which you see in different sections of the film. I knew that that was really powerful. I knew that it's kind of like opening someone's brain or someone's heart, and you really just get such this unbridled, unrestrained openness of someone speaking to themselves, really. And so I knew with that it was material that was really going to speak to people in a certain way. But definitely during the course of making the film, it was there were times where I thought, okay, should I keep going with this? But my father was very open with me from the very beginning. I was really open with him, and we just said to each other, okay, we're gonna be honest with each other, and we're gonna trust each other. And we became extremely close during the making of the film, of course, and our relationship is forever changed because of that experience. But I think that because I got to see him in that very intimate way, it has made me appreciate much more deeply him as a person and his life story too.
Okay, and since as we said, it's very personal, but also since the Free Zone is a festival of socially engaged cinema, and someone could ask now why this personal, intimate story is socially engaged. I definitely find it somehow socially engaged, especially when we see the whole regional competition where the main topic is searching for home in any possible way as a main goal. But how do you see that? Is this subject or subjects you are talking about in the film, can you describe them somehow as social issues?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that whenever somebody is confronting their place in this world, their relationship to themselves in this world, and their relationship to what they want to leave behind on this earth, I think is a social issue in a sense. I think that these days, well, I would say my answer is probably different based on the pandemic and the times that we're living in right now, actually, because now that we're in this situation that we're in with the world, I think that it has caused a lot of people to think about their lives and what they do every day and their relationship to each other, and the meaning of life. And that I always thought was one of the main topics of the film, at a kind of like a micro level, with my father, is like, and his world of the church, and his world within his own heart, and these things, these topics that he grapples with in his film, you know, life and death, and birth and joy, and the intimacy of knowing the details of another's life, you know, I think are very relevant for what we're going through right now. One of my favorite scenes in the film is when he goes to this group of young people. He's at this house and he's filming this group of young people, and they appear to be very happy. And he says, well, in reality, one of them is suffering from, you know, abuse, and others are struggling with their sexual identities, and, you know, there's all these different things going on, and they don't know that about each other, but he knows that. And I always thought that was a really, really powerful scene, and it, to me, speaks to the truths that we hold inside ourselves versus what we share with the outside world. And so this, to me, is a social issue topic, and I think that it's been kind of blown apart now with the pandemic and what we're living in, and causing us to rethink maybe some of the ways that we've been, or some of the things that we've been facing in the past, and what we're going to do about it as we examine our own lives.
And this, all of those issues and personal questionings, when we see the whole film, the story generally covers quite a period of time. Did you also spend a lot of time in making this film, from the moment of the inspiration until the premiere?
I did. It's longer than I want to admit that I spent making the film. No, but actually, when I first started filming, I didn't really know that I was making a film. I just had an inspiration to document what my father was going through at the time. And some of those interviews are included in the film that you just saw. And they're more when he's very emotional and more raw. And I knew that time period was not going to last forever with him. And I wanted to film that with him at that time. And so I started filming, and he wanted to express himself too. He was in a place where he really wanted to kind of get a lot of things out. And so we kind of started on that journey together, but I didn't think that I was going to make a feature film from it. Maybe I thought maybe I'll do just a portrait, and maybe I won't really show it to many people. It was something that I just felt that I needed to do. And then I was encouraged by a few people, and then my producers, who I began working with a few years after I started filming, Yorgos and Konstantinos, who were part of Heretic, the production company in Athens. They saw the footage, some of the footage that I had been filming, and also I showed them my father's film. And actually that whole thing that he made is about 45 minutes long. So there's not all of it is included in Sundays, but the whole thing is very powerful. And so they saw that, and we started talking, and I said, you know, maybe now I think that I have material to be able to put something together that's more substantial. And so then I started actually approaching it as a film at that point. And that's how that process started. And I also want to just say quickly that because I was filming a lot of it myself, and I was at times in front of the camera, or you hear my voice, and I am a character in it as well. I was obviously very close to not just the subject, but the whole thing and the material, I knew that I wanted to work with an editor. I did not want to edit it myself. I thought, okay, that's I don't want to be so close to every single aspect of the film. And so I ended up working with an editor who I had known for a while. Her name is Esther Shubinsky, and she had actually also made a film about her own father, and she had some years before. And so she had a unique perspective on these kinds of relationships and family relationships, and she's very good with emotional truth and that sort of intimacy. And so she and I started working together.
How can I have a thing on my mind, but I don't know how to put it. We people from the Balkans can really feel those emotions in the film, and also we can understand the mentality in general. But it seemed to me that you really managed to combine this southern soul and with kind of pure American documentary approach in filmmaking. For example, some moments in the film reminded me of Capturing the Friedmans. So my question is, did you find inspiration in some films, or the style itself came at the end when you saw the whole material?
I definitely was inspired by several films when I was approaching the editing of it, and also the filming of it. And it's funny that you mentioned Capturing the Friedmans, because that was one of the films that I was using as a reference. Also, Stories We Tell, Sarah Polley's film, that Canadian documentary from some years ago, which relied heavily on a lot of recreations, but I had something similar to that in my father's film, where I was kind of cutting back and forth between present day and reality, and then also other filmed material. So that style was something that myself and the cinematographer who I worked with, who is Serbian, by the way, if you know her, Svetlana Svetko.
No, I don't know.
She's based in Los Angeles, but she's Serbian. So that was something that Svetlana and I had worked together on as well. But I think that for me, more than anything, the film, I wanted it to have more of an emotional style, I would say, in terms of, the intimacy and maybe pulling back, and then having moments where things feel kind of disconnected, but then they also feel like they're coming together in some way. That was more of a focus for me in the editing process, was kind of the emotional style and the emotional road, that we were going on with everything. But it's interesting that you mentioned that it had this kind of Southern flavor to it, in a sense. That's nice to hear. I haven't heard that before. And I have to say, probably some of my favorite sequences in the film also are the scenes that are filmed in Greece.
Yeah, it's beautiful
as well. Yeah, I think that, you kind of get a feeling of like being there, and the air, and also the very big difference between being there and being in the States, where I grew up and where a lot of the film takes place.
And how he reacted when he saw the whole film finished?
That's a good question. Well, he saw it towards the end of the editing process, and I kind of treated it like a normal subject. I was not sharing so much during the editing process. Of course, I was always in communication with my father, but I really was focused on, at the end of the editing process, I was really focused on kind of detaching myself as this person's daughter and really focusing on this as a subject. At that point, I felt like that was what the film needed. And so, but anyway, he saw the film earlier this year, I think at the beginning of this year, and he really liked it, actually. I think that, because time has gone by, he's at a different point in his life now too, and I think he's able to see himself differently as well, and also not be so close to the material maybe that's in the film. But he thought that it was very honest, and I'm not sure that he'll want to watch it so many times, but I think that it was something that he was proud of, and that he feels like is a very truthful account of his life and what he went through. And I think he also is, as there's an interview in the film with another priest who is his very good friend, and he says that my father is still doing the same thing now, even though he's not dressed as a priest. And I think that this film, if it can speak to other people, if it can speak to their lives, if his life and his journey can illuminate something for somebody else, he's very pleased with that, and he's very happy with that, because he still is a person who cares for other people so much, and cares about their emotional well-being and other people's journeys as well. So I know he's happy about that.
And do you already have some new project in development or in shooting new film? Will you continue the same way with the same similar styles, or preparing something different?
I am preparing something really different. After I finished this, I said I don't want to make another documentary for a while. They do say documentaries are hard, and they are. Documentaries in a lot of ways are harder than narrative films. My background is actually in narrative filmmaking, and so I'm working on a feature script right now that would be a Greek-French co-production. And there actually is another short documentary that I will probably do in the next few months, but it's a kind of a very straightforward subject, and not something that's a personal thing for me. So there's a few things happening for me for next projects, which I'm excited about. The pandemic makes it a bit complicated, of course, but it's a really good time to write. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm focusing on.
In a few years it will be finished, and maybe we'll have a chance to have it at Free Zone, and to have you in person at the Free Zone, so you can meet our audience and our colleagues. So thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you so much, Ivan. I'm so honored to have the film part of Free Zone.